Oh boy, Jets edge rusher Haason Reddick has requested a trade, and he hasn't even played a down for New York yet. What on earth is going on? I'm going to react to that here coming up on For Verts. But listen, this is why you subscribe. When big NFL news drops, we react, give our analysis here on For Verts. So hit that subscribe button, join the movement. We're like 30 subs away from 1,500 here on the channel. Join the family for free. We're having fun here on For Verts. All right, I'm Harrison Graham. Haason Reddick wants out of New York, and of course he does, because he has not gotten a contract extension, which is what made the Philadelphia Eagles trade him to the Jets in the first place. They didn't want to give him a pay raise or an extension, so they traded him to the Jets, and normal logic would say, oh, well, if the Jets are going to trade for him, they must be prepared to give him an extension to give him what he wants, or at least have good faith negotiations. And that appears to not be the case. And so he has not been in the facility at all this offseason. A very unique situation. And he wants out. He has requested a trade at this point in time. Now, the Jets, of course, have come out and said, we're not going to trade you. Here's part of the Jets statement. We informed Haason that we will not trade him. He will continue to be fined per the CBA if he does not report, which I got to just laugh at. Yeah, he's clearly comfortable accepting these fines. He wants an extension. He made that clear to Howie Roseman and the Eagles. They didn't want to give him a pay raise, so they started shopping him to teams that presumably would give him a pay raise, to one of the better pass rushers in the last few years. And so the Jets trade for him, and they're shocked when he doesn't show up? What on earth are the Jets doing? What is Joe Douglas trying to do here? Why would you trade for Haason Reddick, a disgruntled player from a contractual standpoint, if you weren't ready to pay him? Howie Roseman was like, hey, man, we like you, but we're going to trade you. You're 30. We don't want to give you a pay raise. Thanks for the 2 years. We're going to trade you with 1 year left on your deal. Jets step up. Hey, we're trying to win a Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers, and makes sense. Go get a premier pass rusher. But then you're not ready to pay him, and you act surprised when he doesn't show up for OTAs, minicamp, and training camp. And now, 4.5, 5 months later after the draft, here he is requesting a trade, and you come out and say, yeah, well, we're not trading you. We're going to keep fining you until you show up. It's just bad business. You know, a lot of these times you see the public be like, oh, these poor players, they're getting screwed by these teams. And I think sometimes that gets overblown. It's like, well, you're managing a salary cap. Like these coaches in GM's front office, they're managing a roster. In this case, though, it is completely on Joe Douglas and the Jets. This is not on Haason Reddick. He showed you what his cards were. He told the Eagles, I'm not playing for my $14 million that I'm set to make this year. I need a pay raise. And they said no, which is their right, so they traded him. Why did the Jets think that that problem would just go away? I mean, this is embarrassing for New York. It really, really is. They traded a 2026 sixth-round pick that can become a second. Not a crazy pick to lose, considering it's not even in next year's draft, but still a potential second-round pick. And now they may not even have the player. They can come out and say, hey, we're not trading you. You better show up. I don't think Haason Reddick's showing up. I think he's made that pretty clear. Unless you give me a pay raise, unless you give me an extension, I'm not showing up. I mean, this is just kind of par for the course for the Jets. Like, how can anyone take this team seriously? How can anyone sit there and go on one of these national TV shows and have the Jets be their trendy Super Bowl pick? They are dysfunctional from top to bottom. If you trade for a player that wants a new contract, you better be ready to give it to him, because if not, why is he going to act differently with you than he did with an organization the caliber of Philadelphia? Say what you want about the Eagles. They are well run. If he's willing to hold out there because he wants a new deal, why would he not hold out with the dysfunctional New York Jets just because they traded for you? No, he wants more money. You don't have to give it to him, but you better not trade for him if you're not willing to give it to him. Like, this is on Joe Douglas. This is on the Jets. And I just look at this thing right now, and I know there's a lot of talent on this roster, and I respect Aaron Rodgers as a player, but the last time we saw him, the year before the Achilles injury, was probably the worst year he's had in a while. His last year in Green Bay, he's 40 years old coming off an Achilles. Tyron Smith gets hurt all the time. Like, it just feels like they have a lot of circumstantial things that need to go right for them to succeed. I don't know, man. This feels like an 8-9 kind of just mess from start to finish. And I could easily see a scenario where 6 months from now, we're looking at this and Robert Saleh is out of a job, Joe Douglas is out of a job, and Aaron Rodgers might just retire. Like, he's just like, I'm done. Screw this. I came here. I wanted to make it work. I got hurt. The dysfunction was too much. Listen, I don't feel bad for Rodgers. You wanted out of Green Bay, a very functional franchise. It's this is just a mess, man. So where does it go from here? Where could Haason Reddick go? Again, I know they're saying they're not going to trade him, but if you're not willing to meet his contractual demands, then you may not have a choice. And again, you traded a 2026 third that could become a second for him. I guess it would just be a third because conditions wouldn't be met, I don't think. But you may if you trade him, get a fourth at best, maybe a fifth. Couple teams I keep in mind here to trade for Reddick potentially. Chicago Bears. I don't think Ryan Poles wants to make a big splash right now, the Bears GM, but if he can get Reddick for a day 3 pick, I bet he'd be willing to give him a 2 or 3 year extension, maybe $25 million per year. Now, I do want to be clear. I don't know what Reddick is asking for. I just know he wants more than the 14 and change he's making this year. So, is it $20 million per year? Is it $25? Does he want crazy reset the market money? The Bears gave Montez Sweat $24.5 million per year on his extension last year. He's 3 years younger than Reddick. I don't think they would top that number. So 3 for $66, $22 a year. You add him to that defensive line opposite of Sweat. Javon Dexter is a second-year interior guy. That defensive line could all of a sudden be a lot better than it's been pretty quickly. How about the 49ers? Listen, if they trade Brandon Ayuk, yeah, he's not an Ayuk replacement at receiver, but maybe their way of roster managing is, okay, well, let's just make our defense even better. Let's add another premier defensive player. They've got over $50 million in cap space, and they might get impacted offensively with losing Ayuk, but their defense would definitely improve. It's kind of like what the Chiefs did with Tyreek Hill, right? They traded Tyreek Hill, and then they drafted Trent McDuffie with that pick. They got George Karlaftis as well. They kind of became a little more defensive-oriented from a roster standpoint. So maybe the 49ers would consider that as like if we can't work things out with Ayuk, let's spend some money on a premier pass rusher. That wouldn't completely shock me. What also wouldn't shock me is if Andrew Berry slid in here and made a swing. Andrew Berry, the Browns GM, is very aggressive. He's willing to take swings. And I could see him getting Reddick for 75 cents on the dollar and just throwing him on this defensive line opposite of Myles Garrett. Zadarius Smith is banged up. He's got injury issues. You put Reddick on that defensive line with Garrett, you're talking about one of the best front fours in the NFL. If they can just get decent play out of Deshaun Watson, they can be a factor in the AFC. Now, again, keep this in mind. Clearly, if you trade for Reddick, you better be ready to pay up because he's told you, I'm not playing for what I'm making right now. I need a pay raise. I'm not playing for $14 million this year. I need a pay raise and I need an extension. So clearly the Jets have not been willing to budge at this point in time. Maybe they flip him to another team and just cut their losses, but this is an all-time blunder by the Jets, man. This is a really bad look if they can't figure this out. I mean, even if they do figure it out, it's still a bad process. When you trade for a premier player who wants a new deal, you should have a new contract done within a week of trading for that player. And it's been 5 months and he hasn't shown up and they're acting shocked. I remember Saleh, was it either at minicamp or early training camp, he was like, yeah, we expect him to be here. Why? He's not going to show up if you don't pay him. Like, he's made that clear. How much clearer can he be? And then they release a statement saying they'll fine him. He doesn't give a shit. He's told, fine me. It's just, Bad teams stay bad for a reason, man. And I know Jets fans have been optimistic about the talent they have, and they do have a lot of talent. Douglas has added good talent, but it has not paid off up to this point. And you do wonder if this could be kind of a tipping point for this franchise. All right, we're going to get out of here on that. Thanks to everybody for tuning in. If you made it to the end of the video, again, a reminder to subscribe to the channel. We'll continue to monitor this story and everything else around the NFL. My name is Harrison Graham. We will see you next time.